Welcome everyone back to Read the Book First. This week we're going to be talking about the Warm Bodies movie, and to do that, Kara joined us again. Warm Bodies, the movie came out in 2013. I didn't realize that till rewatching this.
Yeah. Well, when I rewatched my book review from when I was a teenager,
Hmm.
I there at the end I say, which I totally forgot about this when reading and watching, that Isaac Marion actually sold the movie rights before he sold like the the book to push it. So someone wanted to make it into a movie before someone wanted to publish it as a book. And I haven't read into that anymore. It's like, that's crazy, and explains how this movie came out 2 years after the book came out, which feels very fast.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, I noticed that it's the same production company, Summit, that made the Twilight movies. And Twilight, The Last Breaking Dawn came out in 2013. So I think it's very obvious what they were trying to do with this movie, you know?
Definitely. Yeah. I noticed that too when I had forgotten that. And when it came up in the opening credits, I was like, oh, that explains a lot. Summit
Hmm.
Entertainment.
Yes. For the listeners, if you've not listened to our book episode, go back to last week's episode where we talk all about the actual book. I can't remember the first time I saw this. I've seen it a few times. I was looking into my
Same.
letterbox and I've not logged it until this rewatch. So it's been at least over 5 years since I've seen it.
Me too. Yeah.
As far as our main character, we have Nicholas Hoult playing our main zombie. I like him as an actor in general. I'm a big fan of his. He fits that stereotype of actors I frequently have crushes on. And it's funny, last fall we did an episode on Renfield, which is
Okay.
that Dracula retelling, which was fun. Like
I
actually
haven't seen
fun.
that.
It's a fun time. It's a fun
Okay.
time. But I think it's interesting because this came out after his obviously he got famous from About a Boy when he was a kid.
Right.
And then he had the first couple X-Men prequels came out before this. So like he is just like him on his rise up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember really liking him. X-Men First Class was my entire personality for quite a while.
Same.
So I loved him in that. And
Hmm.
I mean, I like him in this too. I think
Yeah.
I, in terms of casting, I feel like that role was well cast. No one else comes to mind from that era that would be better, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I agree. And in general, I think in this movie, the acting's good throughout the movie. What the actors were given, that's debatable.
Yeah.
But like, you know, the acting's decent, right?
Yeah,
And
it's fine.
yeah, and his is good, I would argue, for again what they're given. But we do start with a voiceover, as the title credits are going through, and voiceovers are so hard to do, and they're so overused. But
Yeah.
also, I don't know how else they could have done the part where he can't talk, so I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, I kind of had the same thought. I was like, I mean, this is corny, but also, how else are we supposed to get inside his head? Like in the book, he's obviously narrating.
Hmm.
So it was like, well, how else could they do this? It was
Yeah,
fine, I
it
guess.
it's like I understand that they had to do it, but in my head I'm a little grumpy about it.
Yeah.
Also, the font they chose for the title
Oh,
sequence,
so bad.
so bad. Like like we all like joke about how Avatar uses papyrus, right? This is worse than that. It's
Yeah.
barely legible and it's red.
Oh yeah, it's really bad. It reminds me of a specific font that I remember, similar to the papyrus, but I don't remember what it's
Hmm.
called. It's like the something script. I don't know. It's
Something
just
like that.
very not good.
It's like when I was a kid and I go on a Word document and type out something and make it into the quote cursive font, wasn't cursive, but then I'd like, look, it's like an old time letter and I print it out. I don't know. I
Exactly.
did
It's
weird stuff.
like the Comic Sans of a vintage script.
Yes.
font.
Yeah, it's awful. It was so distracting,
Yeah.
especially since they start the movie trying to do like really cool, like artsy, like frames,
Yeah.
like really close up on his eyes, and then it's all the zombies in the airport. And I'm just like, this is too much. I'm overstimulated. Calm down,
Yeah.
more
The
bodies.
font is, yeah, it's just too much. I agree.
Yeah, I did like the bit of like because in a movie version of a zombie, a post-apocalyptic world, we need to address how they got there. And I did like how they had R just say, I'm not really sure what happened. It could have been a bunch of different things. And then the news clips kind of, crossing over it. I thought that was a smart choice because that's not the point of this book
Right.
or
I
movie.
agree. Yeah. It's like we need to address this, but we're not focusing on it because it's really not that relevant how we
Yeah.
got here. And it fits with R. Like R doesn't remember who he is. He doesn't remember his own name. He doesn't remember how he became a zombie. He just is.
hmm And then, yeah. And then in that like monologue he has, there's the clip of the airport with humans and everyone's acting like a zombies on their phone. And I'm like, this is a really interesting take, but they just like do it for 2 seconds and that's it for the whole movie. And I'm like, guys, that that's what the book was trying to do. And then you
Yeah.
point at it and then you leave it.
Yeah. Yeah. Missed opportunity there.
Yeah. But we have the whole setup like in the book. There's the airport, all the zombies. I do like the look of the zombies, the hair and makeup. Like it wasn't too gross, but also wasn't too like fantastical.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if I spent enough time with some special effects makeup, I could make those looks, and I liked the approachable zombies.
Yeah, I agree. And it helps you like I mean, regardless of the fact that we're supposed to see R as like a romantic protagonist at a certain point,
Yeah.
like even from the start, we're meant to be like sympathizing with him and identifying with him. And if he and M looked too gross, it just would be a
hmm
really tall order to be like, these are our heroes, like these are, we're rooting for them, even though
Yeah.
they're disgusting, like rotting corpses.
And then so I liked like the zombies, or they're called corpses. They're referred to as corpses throughout the movie. I'm not sure why, because it's not really a thing in the book. Like they use
Yeah.
multiple different words in the book, but whatever, they're called corpses. Probably some copyright issue. But then we have the bonies.
Hmm.
And the bonies in the movie are like super CGI'd because obviously they're skeletons. Like,
Yeah.
you can't practical effects dozens of skeletons that are terrifying. But like they looked straight out of a video game from like the like mid 2000s in a like a good way, I thought. I was like, okay, this like obviously you're gonna have a bunch of CGI in this post-apocalyptic world, but I'm okay with the weird.
Yeah. It kind of
Yeah.
worked for the
It worked.
bonies.
Yeah, it was like if the mummy monster CGI evolved, it turned into to the ponies.
That's very accurate.
I also rewatched The Mummy this weekend, so it's very fresh in my mind. I was like, if only. Um, the actor who plays R's best friend, M, I forget his name. I didn't look it up, but he's in this rom-com that I believe, if I remember right, is starring Cameron Diaz and Ashton Kutcher. I forget what it's called. Um, but he plays Ashton Kutcher's best friend, and in that movie, he is the like biggest dick and like misogynist. And so I think it's funny, and like I feel like he gets typecast in those roles, and
Yeah.
and he's kind of typecast in this role, and so he doesn't even talk in the first half of the movie. But I'm like, yeah, that's his vibe, man. I hate
Yeah.
him.
It's the same. I hate him. Well, and it's funny because in the movie, they don't really like, they don't do the whole like R has a wife and kids and
hmm
like M is like, picking up lady corpses. So they didn't really do the whole misogynist thing. Like, yeah, he
Yeah.
he was kind of, a little rough around well, they're all rough around the edges, obviously, but But yeah, it's funny that you said that because it's like, yeah, he does have that vibe, even in the movie where he's not like doing those things.
Yeah. And like it's probably just for me watching this random rom-com from probably 2010 over and over as a teenager. So like it's just stuck in my head. That actor, I'm like, I don't like you at all, but like
Yeah.
no real reason. But there are those two creepy zombie kids that show up randomly and just like look at R
Yeah.
and like him not having the family and stuff. I think it makes sense if you're going to condense this book. It's not a huge book, but it's a lot of information, right?
Yeah.
And you're condensing it. I think it does make sense to kind of leave out that part. Um, you have to pick and choose which parts of the zombie world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that, especially I mean, even in the book, I like the whole like R has a wife and kids, like it's just kind of a fun, weird thing. But then we do pivot pretty quickly into like he's developing this relationship with Julie. So I think in the movie it would have been confusing if it was like, oh yeah, he suddenly has this wife that like the Bonies made him marry and he has these kids, but like it's not a real nuclear family because they're just, all dead together.
Yeah.
It just,
And
yeah, it would be a bit much to do that in the movie and have the audience like follow.
yeah, definitely. And especially because the book at this point is like very heavy on the like, there's this weird thing about these zombies. Like, we're humans, but we're not humans. But here's how we're humans. And the movie's like, that's not a theme in this movie. We're ignoring
Yeah.
that, which is like essentially like not to like jump to the end, but like that's like my whole issue with this movie rewatching it is that it's like the whole like tone and the theme is just not just so different, but it just feels so like shallow.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So like not having all the, pre-Julie zombie world building, I understand for like turning a book into a movie, you have to change the all of it to fit the media or the medium, but it's still disappointing.
Yeah.
Um, then M and R and some zombies head to the city to go hunting, and we jump to see a bunch of like human teenagers slash early 20s people, including a blondie who we end up finding out is Julie, who is our female protagonist, and then a Dave Franco, a young Dave Franco. And it's just whenever Dave Franco pops up in movies that aren't like starring him, it always cracks me up because there's so many of them until he got his own like leading role. And it's like, oh
Yeah.
hey, there he is again. And then
There he is again.
um they watch a video that's like a recorded video from the actor who plays Galbatorix in Aragon.
I did not remember that.
I rewatched Aragon last summer for the podcast with my brother, and this actor, I forget his name. I could have looked it up. Oh well. He reminds me so much of my uncle. I have a one of my uncles is like looks very much like him and talks very similarly to him. Like it's very calm, but like very like serious, but in a very
hmm
calming way. And I'm like, that is every time I see him in any movie, I'm just like, I'm like, oh, there's my uncle. What? But also Galbatorix, who's Julie's dad in this movie. Um, and they're going out into the world. So I thought it was this part addition I thought was fun. The way we get to see the differences between the human community where they live and then the world that's been abandoned. That part
hmm
was fun, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. And I like how they're going on a pharma run. They call it something like that, don't they? Like,
Hmm.
oh, this is important. We can't interrupt our pharma run. And I was like, that's really interesting
Yeah.
because of course you would have to go out and find, medication in in the abandoned world for your little, survivor community. So I thought that was cool. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a smart little detail.
And I just looked this up. I was curious. The Walking Dead started in 2010 because like contextually like in pop culture they were like vampires obviously had a huge renaissance with the Twilight of all.
hmm
And then they're like they being Hollywood was like, okay, now it's zombies' turn, and we had that like World War Z movie with what's his face?
Brad
I'm
Pitt.
forgetting. Thank you. I'm forgetting all actors' names today, apparently. And then we had The Walking Dead, which is still going, question mark. I don't know. No, it ended, I hope. Um, or has spin-offs, whatever. I
Yeah.
watched a few seasons and I was like, this too much. Not enough
Yeah.
zombies, too much people.
Yeah. I
Um,
haven't seen it.
that came out in 2010, and I think if I'm remembering right, 2013 was when Walking Dead got really huge.
Hmm.
And so them going out for the pharmaceutical run, it reminded me of like the vibe of The Walking Dead. And
Hmm.
so it's just interesting to see how this movie plays into like the zombie, I don't know, like stereotypes or like cliches of the movies and TV shows. Because the
Yeah.
book, I feel like, avoids most zombie, cliches.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. But I think it is fun to, does just that little bit does deepen the world a bit, which I liked and kind of grounds it. The very obvious portable PlayStation placement they had cracks me up. It's just
Yeah.
like whenever old tech shows up in movies, I'm just like, oh guys.
We
Like
really went there.
later they talk about an iPod, and I'm like,
Hmm.
"Oy."
Oh, yep.
The zombies attack, and this scene is very similar to the book, except for at one point it's slow motion when R sees Julie before he
Hmm.
even kills and eats Perry's brain.
Yeah.
And this, if you're in, like, it just makes me mad. It's like, I'm fine with a zombie falling in love with a human and that turning him into a human. I'm fine with that weird concept. But I like that it gets sparked by eating a human's brain and that memory, eating that brain, eating the humanity of that person or the soul, right? Because we have the memories. It's not really a soul, but similar. I like that it was what sparks it, not just seeing a pretty blonde
Yeah.
girl from across the room.
Right. This part specifically, but throughout the movie, it's like, okay, they're obviously departing from the sort of philosophical, you know, themes, and they're making it more commercial. Totally makes sense. But I agree that, like, as a huge fan of the book, it's like, okay, we're doing it this way. I guess that's what you do to make it more like palatable
Hmm.
to the masses, but as like a fan of the book, I agree, it like makes it kind of cheaper and like, okay, yeah, he's just like goo goo eyes over this girl, as soon as he sees her, which it is kind of a nice moment. I feel like they did a nice job with the music, and she's like cocking the gun and it's like, oh, there's Julie. But yeah, it doesn't have the same vibe as, like
Hmm.
you said, he bites in the brain, he sees her, and then she's there.
Yeah, I feel like if he had just like killed Perry and eaten his brain a second before, then saw her, I'd be like, I'd forgive almost everything about this movie. I'd be like, this is a great movie, but like, it's literally just this part that I like the rest of the movie. I was just like, no, But it's just because the movie it's filmed well, it's edited well. The music as a millennial, I love the soundtrack. Like
Hmm.
it's just a solid soundtrack, and I'm like, this movie, if it wasn't based off a book that I love so much, if I watched this movie and if my friends saw this movie, they'd be like, this is a Janessa movie because it's cheesy, it's a play off Shakespeare roughly, it's zombies, it is
Yeah.
quirky millennial music vibes, and I'm like, yes, but but that's one part. But
Yeah.
anyways, he kills Perry. He eats his part of his brain. I do like that they make whenever he eats the brain and has Perry's memories, everything is super saturated. And I really
Hmm.
liked that because we think about like dreams often are like kind of like lighter on TV, a little bit like paler or like kind of like gray and white, whereas he's dead,
Yeah.
so it's the opposite, so it's more alive. I thought that was fun. Um,
Yeah. I like how they did that too.
yeah. And then he decides to save Julie, and we have him like really close to her, and his breath stank, man.
Yeah, and the first time he obviously he wipes his like own disgusting like curdled dead blood on her
Hmm.
face to help her blend in with his zombie group. But like just like watching that was so repulsive. And
It's
I
so
was like,
gross.
they really like they have a big job to do after a moment like this to make us
Hmm.
like root for this couple because it's just like so gross.
Yes. And he's like, keep you safe. And then like forces her to like go with them. And she's like trying to walk like a zombie and like barely doing it. And
Right.
it's just like, I don't know.
Also,
It,
I feel like in the book it's more believable that she needs his protection versus in the movie you literally see her friend Nora hiding
hmm.
under, a lab table or whatever. So like he could have left her there and she would have been safe because the zombies were leaving. It just seems like hard to justify, like, oh, I need to take you with me to keep you safe, even though your friend is here and she's safe too.
Yeah. It's just he's taking her because he's in love with her. It's just,
Right.
and he saw her before he had the brain and during the brain, dream, hallucination,
Yeah.
whatever it is. So it does weaken it, I agree. And it's just like, okay, so he's taking her because he loves her,
Yeah.
because she's pretty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Julie, when she's in the plane, once she like calms down, which like she calms down way too fast, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Like, like way too fast. She's like, okay, this is how I'm living now. And I'm like, girl, you're stronger than me.
Yeah.
Like, I would have puked like 4 times before then, but whatever. She comes down and then she like suddenly becomes like almost like manic pixie dream girl in the plane,
Hmm.
which again was 2013. That's
Yeah.
what writers did. So like yeah. But I do like that R matches her like Manic Pixie Dream Girl. He is like quirky, quiet zombie. Like like it's a weird match of
Yeah, I
energy.
agree.
Um and then she does that stupid thing where she's like, go get me food, and he does, and then she runs on the tarmac,
Stupid.
running around zombies. It's I don't.
Yeah, both me and Dawson were like yelling at the TV at that point, like, in what world do you think this is okay? Like, what's your plan here?
And she's
Stupid.
trained. Like we know her dad's the general. Like she's not like uneducated in how to survive. She's been surviving.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
she just somehow thinks she's going to be okay in the middle of this like zombie horde.
Hmm.
Ridiculous.
Once R saves her, they go back to the plane. He pulls out a Corona out of nowhere, which I loved. I was like, of course you have a Corona on this plane, you zombie. What? Okay.
And they
Um,
changed the pad thai to a
yes.
can of fruit cocktail,
Yes.
which why? Like, I
It
guess
was
they
just
didn't feel like explaining the whole refrigeration thing, which admittedly we had beef with. So
hmm.
maybe that was smart from like a plot hole
Yeah.
perspective to just say, we found her some canned food, okay? We're not trying to say there's still freezers working.
Yeah.
But I do miss the pad thai a little bit because that was like a fun little detail.
And everyone loves pad thai.
Yeah.
I do like that when they're listening to music on the records and when she makes the like, you can't work an iPod, which I'm like, girl, we're in a post-apocalyptic world. You think a zombie's gonna be charging this iPod?
Yeah,
This is
seriously.
back when those iPod chargers like would break if you just like looked at it wrong, you know?
Yeah.
But I do like how they talk about how the music is more alive on the records. And
Hmm.
I thought that was, fun. And then they do have that like montage where they start to get, more friendly and she's more comfortable with him and he's
Hmm.
acting more and more human, which like I'm not mad about it, but like it does just feels like it's not like there's no teeth there. Like I was just like, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. They're
Yeah.
falling in love, whatever.
Yeah. Or just kind of like going with it.
Yeah. And also the song is Hungry Heart, which hilarious choice.
I didn't even catch that, honestly.
The soundtrack is like one of my favorite things about this movie. I'm like, this is great. Like I would shuffle the soundtrack and just listen to it when I'm driving. I like the soundtrack. Oh, we have the part where Julie asks him if her boyfriend's gonna come back like R.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. And R says no, and then plays Shelter from the Storm by Bob Dylan. Again, the music just had me cracking up. Like in the book, we get the bits of the memory from Perry, so it catches the audience up. Um, and I'm glad that they kept that because I think that's like one of the weirder parts of the book.
Hmm.
And, they could have done something silly and like figured out a different way of how he learns all this information, you know,
Yeah.
to make it more palatable for audiences or whatever. But I kind of liked the goofiness of that they kept,
Yeah.
at
I
least.
agree.
They end up having to escape, but this is when Julie tries to escape and R has to punch M.
Hmm.
And then he's like so betrayed and he like really looks like heartbroken. He's like, my buddy punched me. And then we have all the zombies that stop attacking them suddenly have blue eyes.
Yeah.
And like I know they're trying to make it so that, zombies are going from non-colored to colorful and but like why do all of their eyes have to be the same color and why does it all have to be blue? Like that's a very specific eye color in history
Yeah.
to have chosen that,
That's
you
a very
know?
good point. Yeah. And also, yeah, just like the over focus on the eye
Mm-hmm.
color, I guess, as just a way to signal like zombie versus human. Maybe it just makes sense. But yeah, I agree. It's a bit like, hmm,
And like even like if you're gonna, and the classic Janessa ignores most of the things that don't make sense about a movie, but focuses in on one thing that doesn't make sense. Like if someone who was born like pre-zombie had green eyes, then when they become unzombie, they should have green eyes again, right? Or
yes.
is it like all of their DNA and all of their like all of that stuff is changed? Like which I don't know. Okay. I'm thinking too hard about something stupid.
Yeah. It's very niche.
Yeah, happens whenever I watch movies like this. There's one thing that my brain's like, but what happens? Um, but anyways, they steal a car and they're able to run, um, as Bon Iver plays. Again, a very 2013 choice, which I love. It's a great song.
Hmm.
Um, they get to the house where they're resting at. We have the whole like Polaroid camera bit, which
Hmm.
is fun.
Yep.
Um, and then Julie is like, "You can come sleep in the room on the floor."
Yeah. And she's like, doesn't she say, "Oh, like my clothes are still soaked. I need to
Hmm.
take them off." And then she like turns her back to him and says, "Don't look." And he, of course, is like staring at her while she's
Hmm.
undressing. It's just weird.
It is weird. It's weird on so many levels.
Yeah.
Like within this world, weird. Realizing us as a dead person, also weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his like vacant stare, like I don't know, it was just like this is unsettling. Like
Hmm.
I'm still not on board with this romance because
Yeah.
he still looks really creepy.
Yeah, like I'm fine with them being friends. Like, why can't the power of friendship bring people back to life?
Yeah,
Why is it the power of love? That seems rude.
I agree.
Yeah, and then what if there's a like a romantic? zombie, do they never not get to come back human?
I don't know. That's another
Because
never considered that.
like it's romantic love, it seems like is what's sparking it at this point. Whether or not
Right.
at the end they try to cover their tracks a little bit with a few lines of voiceover.
Mm.
But I don't know. Again, I'm thinking too hard.
It's fine.
Um, we have the bit where M and all the other zombies are that don't want to attack the humans, see a picture of people holding hands, and then M has this really like intense like look at another zombie. He's like, "Do you feel it?" And then all the zombies are like, "Yeah," and then all of their hearts start beating and glowing like the Grinch.
Yes. I thought that was so strange and like honestly it kind of implied that these zombies were coming back to life before our.
Yeah,
I just was like this like too soon.
yeah,
Like the whole point of this is that R is like leading this transformation. And I would say that's an important part of the story. But the fact that it shows these other zombies' hearts literally beating again, I was like, this feels like a huge departure from the story and implies that like the coming back to life was like just kind of a collective, not really cure, but just like it just happened
mm-hmm.
collectively,
Yeah,
independent from R and his relationship.
yeah. Like I don't think it's a bad idea to like show the audience the zombies starting to act differently because if we were to not see them at all once we leave the airport and then suddenly they're there at the end, that would
That's
be
true.
horrible. But I agree, like the beating hearts bit is too early. Like we should see that way after like he like that R has gone back to find Julie, that he's in the
Right.
city, right? Like where he's acting on his impulses, not just feeling the impulses. We should see them
Yeah.
like maybe acting different
Right.
slowly. That I think would be fine, but it's just the pacing of that evolution of the plot is just weird.
Yeah. And there there are some things missing from the book that would show them acting differently, such as the way that they join together with M to like fake chase R into the human settlement to help
Hmm.
him. Like that shows like, okay, not only are they working together, they're like understanding the cause. But in the movie, he just like sneaks in through like a
Hmm.
secret passage that he sees in Perry's memories. And I was like, come on. That's like that would have been a great scene on movie, like
Hmm.
on screen to see to see R, really pretending to be human before he's like at that point and to see the other zombies really goofily like chasing him. I don't know, missed opportunity.
Absolutely. And instead we get R walking down the highway to the beginning of Rocky Like a Hurricane for like 20 seconds. Not even the full song. And that's I feel like this movie has another edit where it's just a big old spoof of zombies that would probably be wonderful,
Yeah,
you know? But it's just like sometimes this movie gets too close to a spoof, but it's also taking itself so seriously. And I'm like,
right,
the book is serious, but it takes itself as a joke at points. And
right.
that like weird balance is missing from the
Yeah,
movie.
I agree. The tone is like totally weird.
Hmm. R ends up getting into the city and finding uh Julie's house, and we have the balcony scene, which is way more obvious, as like if this is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, it's like this is their chance, and I think they could have made it a little bit better. It felt like, I don't know, like I'm like if you're gonna be cheesy, this is the point. Make
Yeah.
this part the cheesy part, but it fell flat to me, I feel.
Yeah, it was fine, but
Yeah.
could have been better. Yeah.
Um, the actress who plays Nora, I think it's interesting. In the book, Nora is black, I believe, right?
Yes, I was gonna
Yeah.
say that. I was like, I'm like 99% sure Nora is supposed to be black.
Yeah, because like she like says some like intersectional like, stuff that she has to deal with. Like she's like, yeah, I'd felt like this before we were zombies, dealing with zombies,
Right.
and now I'm everyone else is, like there's like some like interesting little bit there. It's like a line, a throwaway line almost in the book.
Yeah.
But then Nora also doesn't Nora want to be a doctor, not a nurse in the book? I feel like. I mean,
I don't remember if it says specifically.
I don't think it said specifically. And like I think the movie chooses nurse because, M is supposed to be like Mercutio, and then
Hmm.
Julie is literally talking to the nurse, mimicking.
Right.
Yeah, so like if you're like trying to be like very like English teacher about it,
Yeah.
you could.
Wink, wink. She wants to be a nurse. Yeah,
Yeah,
I see.
exactly. Yeah, but I also recently watched Crazy Stupid Love, and she's that teenage girl in
Yes.
it.
I
So like,
recognized her from that and I was like,
yeah, I watched it 2 days before I watched Warm Bodies, and so it was really weird going from those. And I was like, "Hey, this is
yeah.
you had a wild few years, lady." Um, Nora, I do like that Nora is still like skeptical of R, but like it's like, okay, here we're going. Like she still has that vibe
Yeah.
from the book, which I think is good. And I really like during the makeover scene, they start by playing Pretty Woman.
Yes. I love that.
And then they switch to one of the best songs of all time, Midnight City, which again, very millennial.
Yeah.
But weird song choice for a makeover scene. Like,
Yeah.
but still I love that song, so I'm not mad.
I do
Um,
love how Nora teases Julie about our before he shows up. She's like, "Is it weird that I miss him?" And Nora's like, "Your zombie boyfriend?" And I was like, "Finally, we're getting like someone to acknowledge the ridiculousness of this situation and who's like, like you said, skeptical and like,
mhm.
okay, Julie with her zombie boyfriend." Oh.
Instead of having them like run around the city, like I kind of miss that because we get to see less of the city, but
Hmm.
also pacing wise, it makes sense why they didn't. And then instead they just go straight to finding her dad.
Yeah.
Um, and I, oh yeah, because we have this whole thing that R already knows that the Bonies are coming to find them and attack. So like R is very urgent about this. I was like, why are they
Right.
doing that so fast? That's why, which does
Yeah.
make sense, with what they decided to do with the movie at least.
Hmm.
They go and talk to uh the dad, and they show him R, but they end up having to run away, and we have like a chase scene that's similar to the book where they do jump out of the side of the stadium
Yeah.
into the water. Like, is that right away?
I mean, there's quite a bit of a chase with the
Oh
bonies.
yeah, because the Bonies get there.
Yeah, the bonies get there and the like corpses get
Hmm.
there. And I did really like the scene where it shows the corpses are fighting the bonies, and
Hmm.
then the human soldiers like come upon this battle and they're like, who do we shoot at? Like it's literally zombies v zombies. And they're like, do we shoot all of them? Do we
Hmm.
like work together? I thought that was a nice touch and a good way of showing like the transition between the transition from the corpses becoming more human because they're obviously fighting the bonies who are too far gone.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it's good, and like the M or slash Marcus character has that. He's like, shoot this asshole, and he like throws the bony. Like, so we do have a bit of him, being that that character he is in every
Yeah.
movie. Um, yeah, because they're running away from both the bonies and the humans who are trying to get them to bring them back to her dad. Because her dad is just like in a car driving places with some cards and not acting in the battle at all. Which,
Yeah.
like, I mean, if he's the general, that does make sense. But also, just whenever they cut back to him in the car on his radio, it cracked me up. I was like,
Yeah.
Are you
Just
that worried
like
about your daughter? Does it look like it? Yeah.
one beef that I do have, and I understand slightly why they did this, is they changed the like stadium settlement into just like part of the city,
Mm-hmm.
which is just a bummer because reading about this like the stadium, the people living in the stadium was such a cool like post-apocalyptic detail and
Mm-hmm.
like so creative, right? And it makes sense because building that set would have been probably a bit much.
Yeah.
But it's just a bummer and I wish they would have done it. I wish they would have done the whole, like shanty town set up in
Mm-hmm.
a stadium. Of course, they do kind of throw us a bone by like having them run through like a baseball stadium. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so this was the amount of stadium that the budget allowed for, not the whole city, but
Exactly.
just the empty stadium that we could afford.
Yeah. No,
And then,
I
yeah,
agree.
Julie's house is like this huge, like nice old
Mm-hmm.
house, like historical looking.
What city do we think they're in?
You know, I don't know.
I think I think they have to be in some state capital because they do say God bless America at one point, so we know it's
Hmm.
America.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's not like a coastal city. I feel like they're in like I don't know. I feel like they're in like an East Coast or east of the Mississippi state.
Okay.
Not East Coast,
Yeah,
but yeah, and
I
like
could
some
see that.
capital because it's like a decent city that has a stadium.
Hmm.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's supposed to be
Yeah.
somewhere specific.
Eh.
Like how in the Hunger Games, like the districts kind of loosely map to actual
Hmm.
regions. I don't remember if there's ever like an implication
I
that
think in the second book it does because they're traveling across a big chunk of what was
okay,
America.
yeah,
But it's been over 10 years since I read that book, so who knows?
yeah,
And the
who
movie
knows?
obviously was not paying a close attention to a book that didn't exist when it was
Right.
made.
Because they also changed ours shirt and tie to a hoodie,
Yes, I
which
forgot.
I've got a problem with that. I think that's bad and stupid because he even says, like, I don't know what I did when I was alive, but maybe I was unemployed because of my hoodie. Like,
Hmm.
that's first of all stupid. And also, if I remember correctly from the second book, like, it's very important what he did before he died and like
Hmm.
what he's wearing. They clearly weren't ever planning to make a sequel. Like, he wasn't planning on writing a sequel. So,
Yeah,
whatever. But I'm like, I feel like that's part of his like quirky
the vibe. Then yeah.
vibe is that he's wearing this tie. Like that's a very like,
Hmm.
2011 hipster manic pixie dream boy kind of
Yeah.
vibe. And I think it's disappointing that the wardrobe was changed.
And like it wouldn't be that much of a difference either because he's wearing a white tee and a red sweatshirt.
Right.
Like maybe it's to make him look more like a teenager so that they could sell it to the Twilight audience. I bet that's
Probably.
why.
Yeah, to be fair, that makes sense. But
Yeah. But still annoying.
they even could have shown him like taking off the tie and finding a hoodie.
Yeah,
Like
during the
just
makeover.
exactly. Or like even at the start, like show him at the beginning, like he's like you don't even have to narrate it. Just like show
Yeah.
it as like a nod to the book fans.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Or like
didn't.
or when she's like at the airplane, they could have like had her going through a collection of clothes and she could have been like, this is funny.
Yeah,
Something like that. Yeah. Dang. We should write movies, Kara.
we should. I would be so good at Easter eggs.
Absolutely. It'd only be Easter eggs. So it would
Yeah.
just be I Spy.
I Spy the movie, but it would be great.
Yes. Um, yeah, so we get the part where they're like jumping out of the stadium and he goes first to kind of protect her. And like I have issues with this, like I did in the book, because there's no way there's bones in his body are not breaking. Even
Yeah.
like he's not alive, whatever, at this point, as we know. but something in him is breaking. And also that like fountain that they fall into is so
So
shallow.
shallow. So shallow. And they fall so far.
Yeah,
They would have both been obliterated.
absolutely. And like he does like hit his head. But I'm like, that's you need to make that like a pond or something deeper,
Yeah,
like a
that
community
was
pool
community pool.
right outside the
Exactly.
stadium,
The
like they all
suspension of,
are.
yeah, the suspension of disbelief required in that scene specifically. It was a lot.
Yeah. And then they kiss, which I know we're supposed to think that they're in love. I I don't believe them.
Yeah.
I think that they're besties and I think that maybe they have crushes,
Hmm.
but like not enough to after being chased kiss this gross zombie.
Yeah, they didn't get me to that point of like,
Hmm.
I'm cool with this. Although I will say, I think they did a great job transitioning him slowly from very gray, very scabby, very
Hmm.
corpse into by the end, I mean, by the very end, of course, he looks fully human. And by the time they're kissing, he's like most of the way there.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think there's no huge like stark differences except for of course the makeover scene, which is supposed to be,
Yeah.
an obvious change. It's
And the
like
makeup they do
believable.
is patchy anyways. Like it's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, it is funny. And it's like the blush especially is like, oh my gosh, look at
It's like
look
a
at his
10-year-old in your
blush.
makeup.
Yes. And the other thing I'm disappointed about is in the book, I love the scene where the makeup is like washing off, and
Hmm.
that's how they discover like the breach, like
Yeah.
that's how the guard or whatever sees him and is like, what's going on with this gray guy?
Hmm.
And of course they also cut out the part where he like starts attacking a guard.
Yeah. I mean, it would not be like believable. Their whole romance would be like ruined if they showed that because they don't have the time.
Right,
But
yeah.
and yeah, I guess what sets off the guard is just him being too nervous to like say his name to her dad. So it's not even that
Yeah,
he's a zombie, it's just that he's a shy, nervous guy.
right.
And I'm like, sir, have you ever met someone who was shy? Apparently not.
Yeah, yeah.
Every shy person is a zombie to this man.
I mean, I suppose he is trained to be overly suspicious, but
Hmm.
yeah, it was like,
Yeah.
dude.
And then, so at the very end, when they're in the pool, he hits his head. She like brings him back up. They kiss. He gets shot by her dad.
Hmm.
And then we see him slowly start to bleed into the water,
Hmm.
which like looked cool, a way to tell that he's like alive, whatever that means. But them showing him hitting his head, so like in like that weird, like almost slow motion, are
Yeah.
they trying to lead us that that is what made him more human, that last knock of the head, or is it the kiss that happens 2 seconds later?
I don't know. And I agree that it's weird that they focused on him hitting his head because it doesn't make sense. Like it's just confusing.
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. But that, is what sparks everyone to get along suddenly. And then we
Hmm.
get like an voiceover about like an epilogue essentially,
Yeah.
where R says that the corpses are learning how to live again and it's acceptance that was the key to the cure.
Hmm.
And I hate that they included that because it's like this whole time we're being led to believe that it's love. Love, love, love. And always seen as romantic love, whether or not it's other love as well, that turns these corpses back to humans. But at the end it says acceptance. And I'm like, saying that acceptance was the cure is like that vibe of those commercials where it's some corporation being like, kindness matters. It's like that same vibe. It's like, I don't believe you. Like,
Yeah.
you- it made me upset. I was like, that part, and then the whole brain after looking at Julie part are like the two things that I'm like, these are the biggest issues I have with this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny. I was like, I'm gonna take notes on my
Hmm.
phone while I watch. This is my only note. It just says the hoodie. That was like
As far as you got.
my biggest note, the hoodie.
The
The hoodie
hoodie.
instead of the tie. And then I just was watching.
Oh yeah, and then they tear down the wall.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
That was interesting.
Yeah. They're like, we have a little bit more CGI budget. Might as well explode a wall.
Yeah, let's tear down this wall. The wall
Yeah.
was an interesting because obviously in the book, the stadium is like the fortress. And if you're not going to have your whole settlement in a stadium, you need some kind of wall. So I did
Hmm.
kind of like that as a sort of substitute for the
Yeah.
stadium.
It works within this movie's version, but it's not as cool. Not nearly as
Yes,
cool.
not
Yeah.
nearly as cool.
Yeah. I tried looking up some fun facts. I even had the DVD copy from my library, and usually in the deleted scenes or stuff, there's like some fun extras.
Hmm.
Nothing really, except for they went to zombie school. All the
Oh,
extras and the yeah to learn how to act like a zombie. I will say the bloopers really funny because there's that part
okay.
where R and M are at like the bar like grunting at each other. That's funny because they keep breaking because obviously that's so hard to act and not
Yeah,
react.
I'm gonna look
Um
that up.
yeah, that bit was fun. And then also I really liked in the deleted scenes because I always forget that he's British, Nicholas Hoult. So like in
Yeah,
between cuts, he's suddenly British again, and I'm like, whoa,
jump scare.
yeah. I'm more scared by his British accent than him being a zombie. Um, but all the other fun facts I could find about the movie were all facts about the book, and I was like, I know this. I read the book.
Yeah.
So no extremely fun facts. Um, but the question I ask everyone is this a good adaptation?
Oh. Hmm.
It's not a perfect question, it's a flawed question, which I like. Because what
Yeah,
is a
no,
good adaptation, you know?
right. I would say yes in general. I think it's faithful to the plot of the book for the most part. It's less faithful to the themes and the vibe, but I think it works for like the time that it was made and the audience it was made for. So yeah, I think it works. I think it's good.
Hmm.
It's not my favorite. I mean, I think you and I both gave it 3 stars
Hmm.
on Letterbox. Like, it's not one that I feel like I'll need to watch again for quite a while. Like,
Hmm.
it was fun, but it's not in my like regular roster. Um, but yeah, I think it's quirky and like it has not a lot of movies hit the kind of horror comedy quirky kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So if there's people who are into that, I would say watch it because it's like it's fun, it's entertaining.
Yeah. No, I agree. I feel like it's a good adaptation for what they were trying to do, right? Because
Yeah,
they wanted to make it a, like you said, it was a zomcom.
zomcom. Yeah,
Yeah, they wanted to make a romantic comedy about a zombie falling in love with the human, and they did that. And like,
right.
it's not a bad movie at all. It's just,
Yeah,
like it's made well, it's acted well. I personally, I feel like them changing the tone and the themes that it was focusing on made it, as a book fan, I was upset, obviously. But
yes,
like if I was not a fan of the book or haven't even like read the book, I'd be like, oh, this is a fun movie, like I said earlier. So I think it is a
yeah,
pretty good adaptation. Um, it's a very like well-liked movie. I was looking at the reviews on Letterboxd and people like really like this. People really like zombie Nicholas Hoult specifically, and I'm like,
yeah. Of
well,
course they do.
yes. The Tumblr girlies out there.
Yeah,
But yeah. Yeah. I was a fun, revisiting this movie.
yeah, I agree.
Thank you again, Kara, for joining us. Us being me,
Yeah,
the
thanks for
royal we.
having me. This was like the perfect book for me to read
Mhm.
for the podcast.
Yes, I'm glad I got to revisit with it with you since it's been, 10 years since I first was influenced to read it from you.
It's crazy. It
Yeah,
feels very full circle.
definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you, listeners, for listening. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Read the Book First Podcast. We have two more episodes of season 3, and I'm already planning season 4. It's going to be very fun. Rate us 5 stars. If it's not 5 stars, don't worry about it. Share it with your friends. And remember, read the book first.